Happy Tuesday, everyone. In case you know or don't know, I use functional lab tests to help find out what's causing your insomnia. Now, I realized the other day that many people don't even know what this means. You might not know what functional lab testing is. So, I want to explain to you what they are, how they differ from blood work from your doctor, and how they can help us find out what's causing your sleeplessness. So, what they are, first of all, functional lab tests get their name because they show us how different systems in your body are functioning or working. Doctor's blood work, on the other hand, is more looking for specifics to diagnose a disease or a disorder. Functional lab tests aren't pointing to anything specifically. Instead, they're showing the big picture of how all the different systems in your body are working as a whole. So that's how they show me what could be causing your insomnia, by looking at things like hormones, your gut, mineral imbalances, and food sensitivities, to name a few. So a great example of a really helpful functional lab test that I do is called the gastrointestinal map, or the GI map. So this is a stool test that shows what's living in your gut: the good, the bad, the pathogenic, the opportunistic, things you do and don't want. So it looks at bacteria, parasites, yeast, and more. And then I can also see the overall balance in your gut and how healthy your gut is, so I know what to recommend to get things back in balance. But what's really cool about this test is that it also has markers for how other systems in your body are working. So it looks at things like how well you're digesting food, how strong your immune system is, how your body's dealing with inflammation, the health of your gut wall, how your liver is working. So this one test, instead of being very specific like a doctor's, instead gives us a lot of information about different systems in your body. And I'm going to post a link so that you can see what the GI map results look like and all the things that it tests for. All of my clients have some sort of gut issue that's contributing to their insomnia. Pathogens are nocturnal, and so it's at night that they're eating, excreting, and releasing a lot of toxins, and all those toxins cause a lot of inflammation. And then your body releases cortisol to deal with that inflammation, because cortisol is anti-inflammatory, but it also wakes you up. So your mind will be racing, maybe even your heart's beating fast in the middle of the night, even if you don't feel necessarily stressed about anything. It's actually something going on in your body. Now, another difference between the doctor's blood work I do, or doctor's blood work, and the functional lab tests I do, are how I interpret them. So when you get results back from a lab, they indicate whether you are in range or not. And this range is actually based on the average of all the people taking the test. And then about 25% on either side of that average, so we have it here, both sides, is called within range or normal. Now, the first problem with this is that these ranges are based on many sick people who are taking the test. So take a thyroid test, for example. Far more sick people with symptoms of either hypo or hyperthyroidism are the ones taking the test, way more than healthy people. So what labs called normal is actually what's normal for sick people with a lot of symptoms. Now, the second problem is that what's normal is not the same as what is optimal. So as a functional health coach, I've been trained to look for the optimal range. And this is a lot narrower, like here, than the clinical lab range. You don't actually want your test results to be normal. You want them to be optimal. And that means that this ranges people are in when they're healthy without any symptoms. So if your results aren't optimal, then we work toward moving them in that direction. So as an example, there's a thyroid test for thyroid stimulating hormone, or TSH. It's a normal range if it's between 0.5 and 3. The optimal range is a lot narrower at 1.4 to 2.2. So I had a client whose TSH was 0.9. Her doctor told her she was normal, but she was having symptoms of low thyroid hormone like cold hands and feet and even infertility. So she obviously wasn't fine. So if your doctor's told you that everything is normal and your lab results have come back normal, but you don't feel normal and you aren't sleeping, then definitely things aren't optimal. Now, another way that functional lab tests differ from doctor's blood work is how I then deal with those test results. So say your test results come back and your cortisol level is high at night. So I don't just want to recommend something to lower cortisol. That's like putting a Band-Aid on a big gaping wound. I want to know why your cortisol levels are high, and it's usually because of inflammation. And you actually want cortisol to be dealing with inflammation in your body, because suppressing cortisol can make it even worse. So looking at all the other tests I do shows me why your cortisol level is high. It could be a parasite, it could be blood sugar issues, it could be a liver that is overburdened, or as is the case with many people, all three of those. So dealing with what's causing your high cortisol is how I help you solve the problem long term, instead of just treating those test results. Your doctor would probably give you something to lower cortisol and then suggest retesting. And then on the next test, when your cortisol levels are normal, he claims to have gotten everything back in balance. But most likely your symptoms haven't gone away. Now, something else about functional lab tests is that it's actually relatively new technology, and that may be why you haven't heard of them. The GI map was invented in 2007 and keeps changing as technology gets better. The Dutch hormone test I use, or dried urine test, has only been around for about 8 years. So these tests are really cutting edge. They're using cutting edge science and technology to find out what's going on in your body. And then I use the science to recommend alternative ways to get your body back in balance. So I see it as this perfect marriage of science and alternative medicine. And I definitely look at your whole body holistically. So we're looking at diet and exercise and still the foundations of sleep, stress for sure, and then recommending some supplements temporarily to help things get back in balance. So I hope that this explains a little more what functional lab tests are, how they differ from your doctor's blood work, why your blood work might have come back normal, but you still have things going on, and how they can find out what can be causing your insomnia. If you want to chat more about what's going on with your sleep and how we can use these tests to help you finally figure out and get over your insomnia for good, then feel free to message me. We will set up a time to chat. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the group.